general of theirs who had really done a lot to help prepare them and protect them when they served in World War II. And they find that their army general friend is not doing as well as he had in the past. And so they decide to spend a ton of effort and a ton of their resources to try to bless this general. They give their Christmas vacation up. They change their location of where they're supposed to stay. And we know that they spend a lot of money because it was like, how much are we talking? And it's like, oh, that's how much money we're spending is what the movie tells us. They call their entire cast up to this inn to be with the general, to bless this general in the time of Christmas season. And I found myself, I've watched this movie heaven only knows how many times, and I found myself, I won't spoil it for those who don't know the story, but as the general walks into the dining room and is surrounded by love, by those who have given up things to bless him, I find myself tearing up. It's like, oh, what a sweet sacrifice it is to give up something for someone else. And I started thinking about why this touches me and why the Christmas movies that I tend to like that tend to give me that choked up feeling. There's power in this idea of incarnation. This idea that we come and live among each other. In John 1, it says that Jesus came in spirit and in truth, right? Grace upon grace. It says that Jesus set up his tent among us. He moved into the neighborhood. He put on flesh and came and lived with us. Lived with our pain and with our hunger and with our problems. Jesus came and lived among us. What greater love is there that Jesus, the creator of the universe, more wealthy than Wallace and what's his name? Wallace and Davis. Thank you. I knew I was going to drop those names. More wealthy than Wallace and Davis. He had the perfection of heaven. The perfection of heaven. He was protected from earthly pain and rejection. He had the perfect setup at the right hand of God the Father. It says in John 1 that everything came into being because of him, and with him, he was there at creation. And yet he chose to come and set up his tent and live among us. What power, what love. When we celebrate, we lit the candle of love this fourth Sunday of Advent. Philippians 2 tells us that Jesus did not count equality with God as something to be grasped, but humbled himself and took the form of a human, the form of a servant, a slave, and lived among us. This idea of sacrificial incarnation, that if you watch many, not all, but many of our Christmas movies represent that. Even if they're not trying to be a Christian movie, that idea of presence and sacrifice and holiness of being together. It says in the scripture, the Greek says that John is the apostolos, the sent one. You might hear the familiarity. The apostolos is the root for the word apostles, because the 12 disciples will become not just followers of Jesus, but sent ones. So John is a sent one from God, and Jesus is sent from God, the Father. And then we find, in the end of this same book, we find that Jesus is now sending Peter. Jesus is calling Peter to now love others as Jesus has loved him and us. One of my new favorite Christmas movies, and I'm going to come over here because I will miss this quote because I'm dropping things all the time. In the movie Klaus, which is a Netflix special, it's free if you have Netflix, Klaus says the true selfless act always sparks another. The power of the love of Christmas, the power of incarnation is that we love because we were first loved by God. And so my question for us this day, as we go into Christmas, as we try to slow things down rather than speed things up. I know that there are presents to be wrapped and cards to be sent and cookies to be baked. Try to slow down. Take a deep breath. This is just as much for me. Where have you seen God's incarnational, set up your tent kind of love in your life? Where have you seen that lately? It might be in a movie, it might be someone being present with you. It might be the sense that God is present in this difficult time that you have experienced and that you have a peace that passes all understanding. My question for you is, where have you seen that kind of love that God is present with in the mess and the muck of our lives? And the truth